This is the July 1st, 2020 episode of the Dark Illumination Report Extra. And on today's episode, I'm going to be answering a question from Kali Cow asking me how to reconnect with Melek Taus. And I also have some very sad news to announce that I've been able to confirm.
This is a Dark Illumination Report Extra with RJ Womack.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another episode of the podcast. Hope you're doing well. As always, I'm RJ Womack, aka Brother Nero, and this is the Dark Illumination Report podcast. And I have some very sad news to announce that I was not aware of until just a few days ago, and I didn't bring it up earlier on the podcast because I wanted to confirm that it's true because I hadn't been hearing a lot of people talk about it. But I did confirm that, in fact, Dr. Michael A. Aquino died on September 1st of 2019 from an illness he had been battling. The Temple of Set has been very quiet about it, and I'm not sure that many people are aware of it. I know there are some people online that were aware of it, but I certainly wasn't, and a lot of people I know weren't. And I know that a lot of people I've spoken to that are involved in the satanic community are not aware of that. So I just wanted to let you guys know, if you don't know, Dr. Michael Aquino, founder of the Temple of Set, has passed away. And it's a very sad day. He had a big influence on me. And in fact, the very first public thing that I ever wrote on Satanism was in response to how he was treated on the Geraldo Rivera show in 1989. I wrote an article for my high school newspaper, an editorial for my high school newspaper defending Satanism and defending Dr. Aquino because I felt like he had been treated so poorly. But anyway, I admired the man more for his character and more for his ability to keep his shit together even when he was being accused of all kinds of crazy criminal things, and when he was being yelled at and screamed at and accused of everything by Christian conspiracy theorists, he managed to keep himself together and act with class and dignity like the military man he was. So I just want to say that I respect him. I think it's a great loss, and go well, Dr. Aquino. The question for this episode comes from Kali Cow, and they ask whether I have any suggestions of how they can reconnect with Melek Taus. For those of you who don't know, Melek Taus is the peacock king or the peacock angel worshipped by the Yazidis. And I associate him with Lucifer, and I consider him the same as Lucifer, so this is right up my alley. I would suggest, first of all, that you get you a sandjack statue if you can. A sandjack is a specific type of peacock statue that the Yazidis use to represent Melek Taus. And I would get me a sandjack statue. I would consecrate it using the suggestions that I gave in the previous podcast. And then in addition to that, I would try to do either an opening of the mouth ceremony or a consecration ceremony to invite the spirit of the god to leave some of his, his essence in the statue. And if I couldn't find either the ritual that the Hindus use for anointing and bringing their idols to life, or the opening of the mouth ceremony by the ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians, I would look for books on making egregores or servitors. And if you can't find any of the other things that I mentioned, I would suggest that you use books on making egregores and servitors. Anyway, I hope that helps. But it should get you started. And just remember, the main thing is to use your mola beads to count the numbers of mantras of each one of the verses, and do that for a couple of weeks after you read the text until you've memorized the verses. And one of the good things about doing it this way is that the text will get in your subconscious, and when you need guidance and when you need direction, you'll be surprised at how fast those text will come to you and give you guidance and direction when you need it. And the same holds true for any other satanic text that you consider sacred. It's always a good idea, if you can, to memorize the text so that it will come to you when you need guidance, because the spirits will use what you have in your subconscious to communicate with you and to guide you and direct you. And it's very important because the main language that most demonic entities or most spiritual entities use are symbolic language, images, symbols, ideas, because very rarely do they manifest. They can manifest, but it's very rare. And if you think about it logically, it's not really necessary for them to manifest in order to communicate with you, because they can communicate with you telepathically. And it's very rare that something that you need done would require them to manifest physically. Plus, from my experience and from what I've learned over the years, it takes a lot for them to manifest in a physical form. So it's not something they do very often. And when they do, it's usually in the form of an orb or something small like that. It's not usually a full-on manifestation. So if you're fortunate enough to see a physical manifestation of a demon, it's a rare thing, and it very rarely happens. And you shouldn't feel bad if you don't see things manifest very often. You shouldn't feel like Satan's not around or his energy's not around, because it just doesn't happen that often. And when it does, it's usually for a very good reason. Anyway, that's about it for this episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's helped you. Hope to see you next time. Until then, Satan be with you. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. I have a Nero's note for you. It's very important that you remember to do your daily prayer in front of your sand jack or your peacock statue. It's very important that you build up the energy in front of that statue and you make it a place of offerings and a place of focus. This is a very ancient practice going all the way back to the Stone Age. In fact, in the first organized civilizations in Mesopotamia, they found that they put the statue of the god Enlil in a holy of holies where he was in complete darkness, where only the priesthood could go, and that other people that practiced the religion were not allowed to go. And this is long before the Hebrews and before the Jewish religion and before the idea of the Holy of Holies or the Ark of the Covenant. So again, just like everything else, the Christians, Muslims, and Jews steal from other people's religions that were pre-Christian or pre-Abrahamic religion, and they claim it for themselves. So don't feel badly about doing any of these practices, because they're very ancient and they predate the Abrahamic religious traditions. Just remember that. It's very important to know that. And as far as my source for this information, it comes from a series of audio courses and video courses called Ancient Mesopotamia, and it's by Andrea P. Padani is the professor. She's a PhD, and she's an expert in Mesopotamian religion. And you can find those courses on Audible or on greatcourses.com. And I think where she mentions this is in lecture 9 and 10. So if you want to follow up on that yourself, you can.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Illumination Report podcast. For the latest news headlines, show information, and more, go to rjwomack.com. That's rjwomack.com.